Today's video, we're going to talk about something that I've talked about before, but I haven't. Let's do it. What's going on, my Leets and geeks? It is the first Tuesday of the month, and y'all know what that means. That means that it is time for a little bit of RPG Elite philosophy, and we're going to go back to one of our qualities, and that quality today is RPG Elite quality number 4. RPG Elite roleplay. We believe it's required. I've talked about this at length on this channel. I've got 2 videos for this specific quality, and I've injected it into other RPG Elite philosophy videos as well. But there's an aspect of this that I've never talked about. I'm a little surprised that I've never talked about it, to be honest. Off the rip, just so you know, the role-playing we talk about is the role-playing that, you know, most people think of, not trying to redefine role-playing in a role-playing game, right? I've seen people try to do that stuff with other tabletop RPG channels. You know, they want to redefine what role-playing game is. You know, most companies who put out tabletop RPGs explain role-playing in a very truncated way in the beginning of their core books, and they got it right. So we don't have to redefine what it is. You know, it is acting as another character. It is putting yourself in the role of another character. All right, so we're going to talk about this today. We're going to talk about it at length from an RPG Elite philosophy, but I'm also going to talk about the RPG Elite approach to this, which I don't really think is just an RPG Elite thing. I think this is just a tabletop RPG thing. But first, we have to lay a foundation, because without this foundation, then it's a wrap, folks. So let's go ahead and start this off by rolling that transition. The main thing when it comes to this tabletop RPG thing is that you have to have an imagination. If you don't have an imagination, it's a wrap. Imagination is the bedrock and foundation by which creativity stands. You don't have anything creative if you don't have an imagination. And let's just keep it 100. And I'll probably ruffle somebody's feathers by saying this, but oh well. Some people just don't have a good imagination. They just don't. And that could be for myriad reasons, y'all. I mean, some people's imagination maybe was stifled when they were younger, right? They just didn't know how to work it, because imagination is like a muscle, right? It will atrophy if you don't use it. And we're always told as we get older, as adults and everything, that, you have to do adult things. You can't work your imagination in that way and, play pretend, which is basically what role-playing is in tabletop RPGs. And you can't do that. That's taking it too far. Nah, you just are trying to cover up your weakness in that you don't have an imagination. I would never, ever try to stifle somebody's imagination at the table. I want them to go. It's supposed to be a vacation, mental vacation when we're doing this thing, man. Go, let your imagination go. But there's a lot of people who play tabletop RPGs who don't play with any kind of imagination, and you can tell through the session, and it's just an uninteresting, boring, banal session. Okay, well, and listen, there are people who've been doing this for years, and they have fun. All right, do your thing. That's their fun. It's only 2 inches deep and a foot wide, but whatever. I mean, if that's your deal, that's your deal. Now, there's a little bit part of that I'm, kind of tongue-in-cheek and being facetious, but I'm kind of serious about it at the same time. And that's sad that we can't expand ourselves, and we talk about immersion and all the rest of that stuff. Okay, you can't have immersion without imagination. You can't. You need to have an imagination, and everybody around the table needs to at least attempt to use their imagination. And so you need imagination when it comes to this role-playing thing. Now, in the past, I've talked about 3 different levels of role playing: low level role playing, medium level role playing, and high level role playing. I'm going to reiterate that here today kind of quickly for each one, but I'm going to focus on one in particular because I feel that it is very important to understand why RPG elites role play and they believe it's required and what all of that means. So let's start with this first level. Low level role playing is the base level of role playing in a tabletop RPG. It has to do with dice rolling and mechanics and stats and things like that. And it gives your developing story structure and consistency, so it's not going off the rails in a different direction. It lets you know what happened and maybe even how it happened, right? I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So back when I was younger, I used to wake up every Saturday morning and watch Saturday morning cartoons. Those of you who grew up in that area, y'all know what I'm talking about. And I would watch it I'd try to get up early, 7 o'clock or whatever, and you watch until like 11:30 or something like that. Then I would go outside and play. And I had a friend who used to live across the street in the projects, and his name was Kwame. And after Saturday morning cartoons, because that was kind of like the neighborhood ritual for the kids, after Saturday morning cartoons, we go outside, we start playing. So Kwame would come over and we would play in my front yard. And we would always play Bigfoot and Wild Boy. Anybody remember that show? We used to play Bigfoot and Wild Boy, right? So I would be Bigfoot only because I was taller, because Kwame was like this little shrimp of a guy, right? So I would be Bigfoot, he would be Wild Boy. We start playing in the front yard, and then we would, we would do all these different adventures and stuff that we would come up with off the rip, pretty much role playing. Until something would happen where he wanted to do something and I wanted to do something, and it was kind of bopping heads. Well, in order for that not to happen in a tabletop RPG, you have low-level role-playing. It keeps things consistent. It lets you know how something happens or what happens. How do you do this thing over here? It defines all of those things. So that is what low-level role-playing is. However, if you keep your sessions in this area, and there are many people who do, who keep it just on this low-level role-playing, you want to talk about boring and uninteresting. For every RPG elite out there, yeah, it doesn't take us but an hour to say, yeah, I can't do this, man. I got to get on up out of here. It is very boring. However, if used properly, and again, I think this is just for tabletop RPGs, it can really help and strengthen your overall role-playing chops. Medium level role-playing, the second level of role-playing, is concerned with verbal descriptions. So how your character may look, act, or react in a situation with the world or with the character or something like that. And it engages the players around the table. It engages their senses. And it also engages them just in the game in general, because your POVs are always switching. Many times, a lot of people put that on the GM for this medium level role playing. You roll and the GM describes, okay, this, that, and the third. Far more am I looking at something and going, okay, what does that look like? And really having the players describe this, because they're part of the story and it's their character. So what does this look like? You tell me what it looks like. It's your character. So medium level role play is concerned with that area of descriptions and describing things and engaging the senses of the players, and also engaging them again, because we keep switching POVs. So it pretty much forces you to have to pay attention. If there were one level of role playing that makes most people uncomfortable, even people who've been playing for years and years and years, it is the level of role playing that is high level role playing. Now, what's that? It is voices, it's accents, it's mannerisms, it's emotions. And I think that last part is the reason why so many people have a hard time with it. It is being in character. You might see this on, MMORPGs. You might see IC, and then you might see OOC. Okay, IC means in character. They are the character. They are in character mode right now. Whatever they're saying and everything, it is as their character. OOC is out of character. What this does at the table, it creates deeper connections between characters and potentially the players who are controlling those characters. It has so much juice when it comes to building those positive things in your developing story. People who are on the outside looking in, this is one of those things that will draw them to want to play a tabletop RPG. Trust me on this. My wife, who's never played a tabletop RPG in her life, got interested in playing tabletop RPGs from watching me and my friend Tom, watching us play tabletop RPGs. That's how she got interested in it. That woman ain't never heard about a tabletop RPG in her life. It was simply from actually looking at people getting into high level role playing and doing it and going, maybe I think I might be interested in doing that, right? High level role playing is where RPG elites like to stay. But I want to talk specifically about low level RPG interpretation. When you have a character or you're going through the game and that character wants to do something. So let's say they have to roll the dice. Okay. Once the dice are rolled, what does that mean? Let's say it like this. It's not just pass or fail. It's not this, okay, well, I passed my strength check. Okay, that's boring, dude. What does it mean? What does the success or the failure of this attempt to do whatever it was, and in this case, we're going to use a strength check. Okay, so what does that mean for the character? What does that look like for the character? How are we interpreting the results of this roll? Again, I've said this before and I've said it again. RPG elites use low-level role-playing in that regard, specifically when it comes to die rolls, to inform them on how they will perform their medium and high-level role-playing. So if, for example, still using that strength check, if I failed that strength check, okay, what does that look like for my character? Is my character embarrassed? Is my character distracted? Is that the reason why they failed? You see what I'm talking about here? What if they succeeded? What if they succeeded and they rolled really well? What does that look like for the character? Is the character surprised? Or does the character have a new injection of confidence and it comes through some high-level role-playing as a result? That's what the dice rolls are for. We have to interpret these and then apply that interpretation to our medium and high level role playing. So it keeps it consistent in this area of mechanics and dice rolling and all the rest of that and stats and whatever. Even this, and let's go back to stats. Let's go to stats for a second, okay? When we look at a stat for something, and let's say the stat is like rather high. Let's say you have somebody's rather high. Okay. What does that mean for that character? Right? Do they act a certain way? Are they a little arrogant because they're very intelligent? Or maybe they're soft-spoken. and they're kind of like a soft-spoken genius or something like that. Maybe they're just weird and they're eccentric, okay? You can get all of that information from looking at your stats, interpreting your stats, and then applying it to your character for medium and high level role playing. See, so it doesn't just stay down in this low area again, where it's just 2 inches deep and a foot wide and boring as all get out. All right. We're just here for the moment for it to catapult us into our medium and high level role playing for the developing story. That is what it's all about for an RPG Elite. Because it's like I said, an RPG Elite, we gonna stay in medium and high level role playing because, well, that is, that goes to another RPG Elite quality, which would be RPG Elite quality number 8. Y'all knew it was coming. For those of you who are on the channel and y'all been here for a while, it's about the story. There it is, folks. Interpretation. So the moral of the story here is don't stop at the dice, but use them for deeper role playing. All of that stuff, the mechanics, the dice rolls, the stats, all of that. Reframe how you think about those things. Don't just keep it there. Use them as a springboard to work your imagination. And that means you have to constantly interpret, and then you have to constantly reframe and rethink, or think in pictures of all of those things. Don't just think in numbers and that's just it. Think in pictures and then go into the story with this picture in mind that you have as a result of the die rolls and mechanics or stats or whatever. That, folks, is the reason why RPG Elite's roleplay, we believe it's required in that way. Hey, if you got any value out of this video today, could you do a brother a solid? Could you give me a little bit of YouTube algorithm love and just tap that like button? I would say crush it, but we're just going to tap it today. We're not going to be violent anymore. Forget that. Crush that like button right now. Also, if you want to stick around, I come out with videos every Tuesday, and sometimes I come out with other stuff, and we getting ready to build up a whole lot of stuff, y'all. And so if you don't want to miss any of it that we got coming up, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. I've been waiting to do this video for a while. I'm surprised I've never talked about how to interpret that low-level role-playing. And so I'll have to do another video where I go deeper, give more examples and things like that. I really will. Okay, question of the vid is this. If you had to pick one area where you think you need improvement, so maybe it's the voice acting, maybe it's accents, or maybe it's actually coming up with words to describe something in a more interesting way for everybody else around the table. Or maybe it's the interpreting of the dice and mechanics and the stats. Maybe that's something that you've never thought of. And you're like, man, maybe I should just even start doing that. Whatever it may be, what area do you think you need improvement in and why? What do you think is your weakness in this area? What do you struggle with? All right, let's get some engagement going down in the comments below. And that means, folks, that will do it for me. And that's my cue to do my Snagglepuss.
So exit, stage left.
Hey, got a game coming up this week. Happy gaming. I pray it is an RPG Elite session. So, in the meantime, between time, hit this video right over here, right? Just keep binging through my stuff. I'm gonna tell you, binge through my stuff. I got plenty, 400 plus, y'all. But me, I gotta go make some more videos. I gotta do some more stuff, y'all. Peace. 5,000 leets. Oh yeah. I'm gone.